Hello and welcome to our parent training. This is the district's effort to support our parents at home so that you all will have a better transition with educating your children at home. So with that, this is the Office of Family and Community Engagement in collaboration with Instructional Solutions, and we have a lot of information to share with you all today. If you have any questions or concerns, you can type them in the Q&A box. Megan will explain a little bit more in regards to how we will be communicating on the live call. Nevertheless, we thank you all for joining us, and I'm going to pass it over to Megan.
Good morning and thank you. Happy Saturday, everybody. Welcome to our Supporting Online Learning at Home here in Detroit Public Schools. We are going to talk about a couple of different things today. But first of all, you may have seen this screen before we got started today. We are using Microsoft Live Events today for today's session. So on the right-handed side of your screen, you'll see a Q&A, and underneath it, you'll see My Questions, and you'll also see Featured. So under the Featured is where you will see announcements from us and where you can ask your questions. And then in the My Questions tab, you'll be able to see the responses to your questions. I'm here with some of my fellow teammates who are going to be answering your questions throughout today's presentation. I'll answer some questions live and give you some resources at the end of today's session based on everything we covered so that you can always go back to the information that has been shared with you today. Again, in that top right corner, you'll be able to ask questions and reply back to our teammates if you have additional questions so that we can answer as many as possible. And today we are going to cover what it looks like for our students who are doing virtual learning this fall. So we are going to talk about Clever, Microsoft Teams, Schoology, and questions and answers. I'm going to show you exactly how it'll be set up for your student during this time, as well as what we can do as families to support our students during this new fall. So the first thing that we're going to do when students are going to be starting their day, they'll wake up and have breakfast since it's the most important meal of the day. They are then going to go to their devices. And if they're using a connected futures device, they're going to look for a Clever, which is a blue icon with a white C that says Clever. They'll just click on that icon. If you're not using a connected futures device, you can go to clever.com. Once you click on that Clever icon or go to clever.com, in the top right corner, you're going to click Login as a student. And once you click on Login as a student, you'll get this screen that says Log In, search for your school. This is where you will begin to type in your student's school. Now, Clever isn't new to the district. It's a single sign-on portal that'll help students have access to all of the online district resources. And when students were in schools over the last couple of years, they have gone to Clever before. So for some students, this is going to be a norm, where this may be new for some of our students. So we'll go to clever.com, click on Login as a student, and then Login, search for your school. You'll type in your student's school. If it doesn't pop up right away, you can type Detroit at the end of it, and it will pop up immediately. If you have a younger student, then you may use a Clever badge to log in. This will basically be a QR code where your student will click on the Clever badge and it'll scan that QR code so that the student doesn't have to have their password memorized to log in. Your Clever badge can be provided to you by your student's teacher. So let's talk about logging in for students. Whether students are logging into Clever, Microsoft Teams, or Schoology, they're going to use this student login information. So Clever is where we always start our day. And when we go to Clever and select our school, it's going to ask us for our login information. So all student login information is going to be a student number at thedps.org. Student numbers were given to students when they join the district. It's the same number they have through their whole career here. It could be 5 digits up to 11 or 12. So it'll be their student number at thedps.org. Student passwords are a combination of a student name, birthday, and gender. A typical password is a capital first initial of a first name, lowercase initial of the first digit of the last name, 2-digit birth month, 2-digit birth year, 01 for male and 02 for female. So for an example, if Aretha Franklin is a DPSCD student with a student ID number of 018765 and her birthday is March 25th, 1998, then her username is going to be 018765 at thedps.org, and her password is going to be capital A, lowercase f, 039802. If you or your student does not know their student number, we will provide you where you can go ahead and locate that. You can start off first with your student's teacher. You can also reach out to us and we'll provide you with that information today. So anytime it asks for a student number or a student ID, it's going to be the student number at thedps.org. And then the password again is going to be the first initial of the first name, capital, the first initial of your last name, lowercase, 2-digit birth month, 2-digit birth year, and then gender code is 01 for male and 02 for female. So once you select your school, you're going to get a screen that looks like this from Clever. And this is where you're going to type that student ID number at thedps.org. Once you've typed that in, you're going to click on the Next button. This is going to give you a screen that looks like this. You'll see the student username at the top, and now you will enter the password. Once you've entered the password, click Sign In. And this will be a Clever landing page. Each Clever page may look slightly different based on the grade level of your student. There are different apps for different grade levels, and there are some apps different for certain schools. But overall, each school will look very similar to this. You'll have favorite resources, school resources, virtual learning tools, and quick links. When students start their day into Clever and log in, they're going to look for the Microsoft Teams icon. It's purple, it has 2 little people with a T, it's under the virtual learning tools. It's called Microsoft Teams, and that's the application that we're going to click on to start our day. So what is Microsoft Teams? Microsoft Teams is a chat-based collaboration tool in the Office 365 suite. It's a space that we can work together, stay organized, share information, and have conversations with our teachers as well as our peers. It's customizable for teachers to best fit the needs of their students, and it's secure for us to use here in the district. This is also a tool that we used this past spring, so some students may know a little bit about Teams, where this could be new for others. When we talk about Microsoft Teams, let's first go over some of the navigation of Teams before we get into the application itself. When we talk about Microsoft Teams, the first thing I like to point out is the Me space. The Me space is located on the left-handed side of the application, and it has a bunch of icons that are going to allow us to move from space to space. It's called the Me space because this is where I get to go from one place to another. The first tab in the Me space that's important is the activity bell up at the top. The activity bell is where notifications from any and all teams will come up. So as teachers create meetings, if students miss calls, if something recently gets posted into a class, the activity bell is a great place to start. Directly underneath activity is chat. Chats may be between teachers and small group of students for small group instruction. This is a great place where students can ask for additional help or support and have conversations with their teachers and peers in their small group. Teams. Teams is a space where students will have access to a class for each one of the classes on their class schedule. And they'll be able to go from one class to another in this Teams icon. The next one is Calendar, which will be a really nice place to see where students need to be at specific times based on the meetings that their teachers have created. Calls lets them know if a specific teacher has reached out and tried to get a hold of them for any reason. And then Files. Anytime you download or want to access a file from any of your teams, you have access to this here. And again, this is the Me space. It's located on the left-handed side of the screen, and this is how you navigate from one space to another here in Teams. The next space in the Microsoft Teams icons is the We space. The We space is the space in the middle of the application. In the We space, this is where we communicate, collaborate, and see the communication that's happening. This is the workspace where we can see what conversations are happening, look for files, and navigate through our different teams that we have available to us. So let's talk a little bit about when we are in Microsoft Teams. When you're in Microsoft Teams, up in the top right corner is a profile picture. It's in the application. Typically for students, it'll just have their initials. So if students want to change their profile picture underneath their name, they can go ahead and change their profile picture to either themselves or one of their favorite characters, as long as it's school appropriate. That little icon will show up anytime they post they have a question, and it'll be there when they log into Teams. Directly underneath this is the status. And the reason why we go over status is because it's really important for students to not only set their statuses, but also see when teachers have set a status. And when you set a status, it'll show up right next to your profile picture. The first thing that you'll notice is the green Available button. The green Available button means that I am actively in Teams and I am available. The red solid circle means busy. This means that I may be in a meeting or I'm unavailable for calls. Do Not Disturb allows me to no longer get notifications in the middle of a meeting, but they'll always be sitting in my activity bell. Be Right Back and Appear Away are both in yellow. This is great if a student is working on their computer and they get up to go have a brain break. They get up to go and have lunch. They step away to use the restroom. By changing their status here in Teams, that lets their teacher know that they have walked away from the computer and that they're coming back. If a student is trying to get a hold of their teacher and their teacher's circle or status is in busy, it may be because they're in a meeting with another student or another class. So students can still reach out in the chat to their teacher, but their teacher may not answer because they're away from the computer or that they're busy in another meeting. So Microsoft Teams is available online, and it's also available on a desktop application. And there's not a huge difference between the online and the desktop version of the two platforms, except there are some features on the desktop application. So let's take a look at Teams together. So I have logged into Microsoft Teams, and this is typically where your screen will take you when you first log into Teams. Again, if your student would like to use the desktop version of Microsoft Teams, when your student logs into Teams, they can click on their profile picture and come down to where it says download the desktop application. And one feature that's in the desktop application that some students may enjoy is if they choose to have their camera on in video meetings, it is not required for students to have their cameras on at any time during a video call. However, if a student decides to turn their camera on, they can blur their background or change their background. So this may allow students to go ahead and have that face-to-face interaction with their peers and their teacher, but they can blur the background or change the background so that no one can see what particular room they're in and students still have the privacy. Again, students are not required to turn on their cameras, but in case they want to have that face-to-face interaction, that's something that the desktop application allows. The desktop application also allows closed captioning to happen in a meeting. Again, not required to download the desktop app, but if you want to use it, you can just click on that profile picture and click on the download desktop app. The desktop application will show up in the bottom corner, and when the progress bar is done, you can click on it and log into Teams like you normally would. That is something that you'll only have to do once. So we're here in the Teams application. We can see our activity bell. We can see our activity bell over here in the Me space. We can see the chat. Anytime you see a little red circle on any one of the spaces in the Me space, it lets you know that there is a notification or something that has been missed. So it's letting me know that I have 6 chats that I have not responded to. When I click on the Teams icon here, I will have a square or a tile for each one of my classes. Each one of these classes will represent my class schedule that I would have gotten at the beginning of the year. My classes look very different than a student's, but they'll have ones that'll say something along the lines of homeroom or science, math, chemistry, music, PE. To access any one of those teams, you just click on those icons to go inside of a team. And we'll go into a team in just a little bit. The other thing to see is the calendar. So when I click on that calendar icon, I can see all of the information going on in my week. There's a couple of things that I like to point out here in the calendar space. First, when you click on the calendar in the top right corner, it says week. If I click on it, I can go from week to work week, or I can click on it and go just to the day. The nice thing about day is it really helps younger students focus in on what's happening just in that day. And you only have to do this once. You can change it anytime, but directly underneath the meeting spaces, it has the word day, and I can change it to the day, the work week, or a regular week. And again, if you have younger students, that I think the day is a really nice view that allows them to see, hey, on Tuesday the 8th, what does my calendar look like? Students can now see the times on the left and where they need to be. So mine says right here that on Tuesday the 8th at 1 p.m. that I will be in reading with Miss McBain's class. So students will be able to see what their calendar looks like. And their calendar will be set up based on their bell schedule. So rather than going from one class down the hall to another class, they can come directly here to their calendar. So when students log into Teams through Clever or open up Teams from the desktop, they'll go directly to their calendar icon here, and they'll be able to see what's going on in one of their classes. So on Wednesday the 9th, I can see that I have math with Miss Murray at 8:30. I have science with Miss Baskin at 10:30. I have a break in between my classes. This is when I can take my brain break, bathroom break, snack, study, work on my independent work. And then I can also see that I have reading and music on this day. So again, when students log into Teams, they can go directly to their calendar to see where are they supposed to be in any given time. So I know that one of the questions that I'm seeing here says, do you know when schedules are going to be posted or given? Some have already been posted in PowerSchool, but some may be changing depending on the school or the class sizes. I would suggest reaching out to your student's school to verify your student's class schedule. So again, when students log in, they can go to their calendar and they'll see what's going on specific days. And again, they don't have to look just at the day. You can look at the work week. If you have older students, I think the work week looks really nice because they can see what's going on throughout their whole week and they can kind of plan based on the information that is coming. So this is what my whole week looks like, or what one day looks like. So once I see a specific meeting, I can see that, oh, I have math here with Miss Murray. If I click on that particular meeting, I can just click join in the top right corner, and I will have the ability to video call in to those meetings. So again, once I find that particular event and I click on that particular class, I just click join up at the very top. And this will allow me to join my teacher in those virtual meetings that we have together. And we'll take a look at what features students have in video calls a little bit later on in today's session. So once I log in, I can always come to my calendar and see where I'm supposed to be at a specific time, click on that event, and join it to meet with my specific teacher or class. Now, whether I'm meeting in a class or not, Teams is the big icon that I want to be able to see what announcements my teacher has posted and what's going on in my classes. So if I click on Teams here, I'll be able to access each individual student's class. So I see a couple of questions here on the calendar, so I'm going to answer some of those questions before we get into an actual class team. One of the questions is, are chats and Teams open after a student's class is over? Yes, the chat is still available. For an example, if I open this particular meeting I have with Miss Murray, this meeting is actually being hosted in our class. So any discussion that we have in our meeting is actually going to post directly into our general channel, which we'll talk about today. That means if I'm a student and I happen to miss one of my classes, I can always go back and see what questions were posted, if any files were shared, so that if I happen to miss out, I always have access back to those specific details. So students can go back from a meeting and find chats and questions that a teacher has posted so that if they miss out, they can still see the information that was covered. And then one of the other questions is, does the calendar sync with Google Assistant so that parents can receive notifications as well? I've never tried it with Google Assistant before, but you can sync the calendars. Think of Microsoft Teams as a backpack, your virtual backpack for your student. So just like when your student would come home from school and maybe put their backpack on the floor or on the back of a chair, and you would unzip their backpack to go through their folder or their agenda to see what's going on there, you can always open up a team or a class team to see what's going on for your student. Microsoft Teams is available on a mobile device as well if you'd like to download that for free and log in. And I can definitely look in to see if you can access it through Google Assistant to receive notifications. But by all means, you can open up your student's class calendar here and see what is going on in their classes. The other question I see is, can students use their calendar to stay organized themselves with their own events? They can. So just like you may use, an agenda or a calendar, a student can click on a particular day and type in read chapter 12. Click save in the top right corner. And now I have blocked off this time for me to study or to focus on this specific work. So especially with older students, they can come in here and really plan out their week on when it's going to be study time, when their breaks are going to be, and specific project managing tips that they have to keep themselves organized with their classes and the classwork that they have. So let's get into a class team here. So I'm going to click on my Teams icon. Again, each one of these tiles is going to represent a course from their student schedule in order to access. I'm going to open up one of my classes here today to see what I have going on in this particular class. So when I click on one of those tiles, you'll be able to see this is what a class team looks like. So the name of my class will be here. Again, those classes will have very similar titles to the ones you'd see on their class schedule. A lot of class schedules have already been assigned and scheduled. I know some schools had to make some changes just this end of last week, so reach out to your specific school if you don't see your students. And once I'm in that particular class, by clicking on the tile, this is what a class team looks like. So every class team will always have a general channel. Channel is made up of posts and files and additional tabs for students. So there will always be a general channel in all classes. Now, some classes may have additional channels underneath. For example, this teacher has a Ask Questions tab. So anytime students have questions, they get to post all of their questions into one place. And I'm a student, so I'm in a small group of intervention. I have a math group, a reading group, and a science group. Anytime there's a little lock there, that means that it's a private channel with the teacher and a small group of students. So this is a space where me and a couple of my peers are working with our teacher just in a small group. So rather than getting pulled back to one of those kidney tables in the back, we have our own little space here to work with our teacher at our level on the different content that we are working on. So these channels may look different based on your student's teacher. An elementary classroom channel may look a little bit different than high school, where high school may break theirs out either by small group, project, or units. So that part might look a little different, but the general channel is always going to be set up very similar. So in the general channel, I have posts. Posts is where students can see the different announcements and conversations that their teachers had. So right here, I can see that Miss Murray has scheduled a meeting. I can also see that there has been a poll for us to take. We have a daily trivia question. I can see that Ms. McBain has left us directions on that we need to fill out a student check-in form. Or I can see whole announcements here about welcoming into the class. So posts is the place for me to see announcements, communication, meetings, and more that my teacher here has posted for me as a student. So I can click on any one of those teams and open it up and see the different posts or announcement my teacher has given me. And students can hover over any one of these posts and give a reaction button. They're not required to, but that's just one way I find is easy. You know, I give it a thumbs up to know, hey, I've already read that one and I'm in a good place. So I can see each one of these announcements that are here in post from my teacher. Next to posts is files. Files is a place where teachers can upload different types of files that they want to give students. So this is a great place where students may post those anchor charts that are typically hung up in the classroom. This is where may put a multiplication chart or a periodic table, expectations during their video meetings, welcomes, syllabus, those types of things may all be in the Files tab. The other thing that you may notice next to Files is a Class Notebook tab. Class Notebook is a virtual notebook. So just like students may have had those spiral notebooks that you went out and bought one for each class, or you went out and bought a binder with dividers and loose leaf paper to put in, this is what Class Notebook is. It's that same concept and idea, but just virtual. And not all of our teachers are using this right now, but some are. So if you click on that Class Notebook tab, you may see a class notebook here for you. And this is what a student will see. They'll see a collaboration space where they'll be able to work on documents and pages with their classmates so they can work together like they would in small groups. They'll be able to look in the content library, which is just viewable for students that teachers add, you know, step-by-steps to the equation or additional resources they want for students to have. And then I have my own private space here in the notebook that I can go ahead and I can type on the screen. I can use my finger and draw on the screen and circle. Again, not all students or all teachers are using Class Notebook, but it is something I like to show families because we do have some teachers who are using it, and it is a virtual notebook for students to use. So when I click on the Class Notebook, I'll be able to see the welcome page that introduces what it is to me, and then I can click anywhere on a page and type. I can use the dictate button, which will be speech to text, and then I can even click on draw and draw all over the screen. And those connected future devices are touch screens, so students can really maximize the different types of hardware that they have in their hands. So this is a really great space for students. So students, when they're in a particular class, they could just click on the top tab of each one of these to go from one space to another. And again, this particular meeting that Ms. Murray has scheduled is right here. So when we have conversations and chats of that meeting, all of those chats, when we are done with the meeting, will sit right here in this space. I'll be able to click on this meeting and it will expand the conversation that we had, and it'll collapse it so that it doesn't mess up the posts here of the class and give us this big long transcript of the meeting, but it will show us what questions were asked from the teacher or what responses other students had here in that space. All right, I'm going to answer a couple of questions that I see here. One of the questions is, what if I can't see my student's classroom? So great question. If you can't see any of these tiles here for your student, that could very well mean that their student schedule hasn't been finalized. So again, I would reach out to that individual school. And the other thing could be is that a teacher may not have activated their class yet. I know some of the teachers were going to do that this weekend because they didn't want to activate classes too early for students. So I would just keep your eyes open on that to see if your student's classroom is there. So teachers need to activate these classes. And I know some of them this past week in their professional development were adding their welcome announcements and putting their meetings together. So they'll probably activate those later this weekend because they were working on some really good content for students. So you can either reach out to your student's school to make sure that they have their schedule. If their schedule is completed, then it just needs to be activated by their teacher. And classes should all be activated by the start of school. One of the questions is Class Notebook the same as OneNote? It is. So think of OneNote like an umbrella, and Class Notebook is directly underneath that. The nice thing about Class Notebook is each student gets their own private space to work into that. And OneNote, again, Class Notebook, they're the same thing. It allows students to use those virtual note paper directly onto their screens. And students can access that in the middle of their classes. So even though they're in a meeting with their teacher, they can always open up that Class Notebook space and keep their own class notes. They can add pages and keep their own study pages together while they're working and studying. So they definitely can use Class Notebook as a place to take notes and actively be taking notes during a particular session with their teacher. Great questions. So again, to activate or to get into a particular meeting, I can click on this meeting here and click join, and I'll be able to join a specific meeting with my teacher. When students join a meeting with their teacher, they'll be able to see their teacher. Again, they do not have to turn their cameras on. Cameras are not a requirement. So let's talk about the different tools students have available to them when they're in those virtual meetings with their teachers. So when students click on join, they'll be directed to a screen that looks like this, and then they'll have their teacher or her material, and they can see all of their classmates who are here in the meeting with them as well. They'll have access to a virtual toolbar in front of them. The first thing that they'll see is how long they've been in a particular meeting. The second thing they'll see is this little video camera. So when that camera has a line through it, this means that the camera is turned off. So if there's a line through the camera is off. If I click on the video camera, the line will remove itself from the middle of the camera, and it'll just be a camera with no line, and that means that my camera is on so people can see me. Again, cameras are not required for students to have on during classes. The next icon is a microphone. The microphone, if it has a line through it, it means it's turned off. That means you and your student can have a conversation, or that if I'm speaking, nobody else can hear me. If I unclick that microphone, the line will remove itself from the middle of the microphone, and I can now be heard by my teacher and my classmates. We do recommend that when students join meetings, that they join with their microphones turned off. This just shows good digital citizenship and good respect for when they join a meeting. Their teacher may already be speaking and they don't want to interrupt anybody. So having microphones muted when they join a meeting, then when the teacher calls on them, they can absolutely unmute their microphones and share their knowledge or their experience with their classmates. And in the same toolbar, you'll see a little hand icon. It's just an outline of a hand. When you click on it, it becomes a solid white hand, and that's the virtual way of raising your hand. Your student's icon will glow and their teacher will be able to see that they have a question or that they'd like to speak. The teacher will call on them and they can unmute their microphone and have that conversation and share the answer to the question at that time. So just by clicking and unclicking that hand, it'll go from an outline to a solid color, letting the teacher know that we have the answer to the question, or we'd like to share something, and then we can mute and unmute. Now next to the hand is a talk bubble. By clicking that talk bubble, a chat will appear on the right-handed side, similar to what you saw today, but it'll be a two-way communication. So as students respond, teachers will respond, and they can have that back and forth between all of their classmates and their teacher in that space. And again, that does get saved into that general channel so that you can always expand and see what was talked about or what questions were there if a student happens to miss the class. They can also add emojis or insert files at that time if they need to send something in. The people is the participants button. It'll let them see who is in the meeting with them. And then the red button at the end is the hang up button where you hang up the call. This is how you can also leave a call if your teacher hasn't ended the whole meeting. So you have a couple of options here. Now, again, you are not required to download the desktop application, but if you do have access to all these additional icons here. The two big icons I like to show is the live captions. So this is how your closed captioning can be turned on, which is really great. And then you can also have the show background effects. So if I do decide to turn my camera on, again, not required, but if I decide to turn it on, I can change my background to be blurry, or I can select one of the pre-made images here from the Microsoft suite as a background so that no one can see if I'm at grandma's or if I'm in the kitchen or if I'm in my bedroom, so that students can still have their privacy but still show their faces if they choose to. And they may even see that with their teacher. Their teacher may be showing in a classroom one day and the next day maybe halfway around the world when they go to talk about new instruction. So something you may see. Again, anytime you see a line through the microphone or a line through the camera, it means it's turned off. And if you click on those icons, they will then be open and available. So these are just some of the things students will see when they're in those virtual meetings with their teacher. So we've talked about a lot of things so far. Students will get up in the morning, they'll go to Clever. Once they click into Clever, they'll go onto their Microsoft Teams. A great place to get started is always that calendar to see where am I supposed to be at specific times. They can then join the meeting if they need to be in a meeting. If they don't have a meeting, that's a great time for students to work on any independent work that they need to be working on. They can click on that Teams to join or open their classes to see what's been posted from their teacher into those spaces. So we've talked how students can collaborate and communicate and see their teachers and join these small group instructions or their full classrooms. But the other thing we should talk about is grades and assignments. So that's what we're going to talk about next. In each class, in the general channel, we've talked about posts, files, and class notebook. Another tab that you'll see up at the top is Schoology. And Schoology is a new platform that we've purchased here in the district to really help us have as much resources as possible when we talk about the academic portion of school for our students. So not just the being able to communicate and collaborate, but really being able to level up and support all students with different assignments. So this is why we're using Schoology, and it's connected directly into Teams. So students don't need to go to all of these different places directly in a class. They'll go to their general channel. When it's time to work on an assignment, they'll just click on the Schoology tab located at the top. And this is what it'll look like when they click on Schoology. So they'll be able to see the icon from their teacher. This class name will be the same name of their class team. Mine are different because I don't have any classes in PowerSchool, but they'll look exactly the same. And we'll actually get into Schoology and walk through some of the assignments together. In Schoology, you'll start to notice that there are a couple of different icons that you'll see. So in Schoology, each assignment that is posted or each activity that is posted has an icon, and then it'll have the title of that material at the top. So when you see the two bubbles, this is going to be a discussion. When I see a picture like this, it's going to be a page. This icon here with the pencil is assignment. So anytime I need to go to all my assignments, I can click on this. And then I can also see folders with different resources, or I can see a regular picture. So these are just some common icons that I'll start to see in Schoology. And the more that I see them, I may start to memorize what some of them look like, but I don't have to. And these are just some of the most common ones that I'll be able to see here. So let's take a look at Schoology. So again, I'm in that general channel. We've talked about some of these other tabs. I'm going to just click on Schoology. And here's that Schoology page for me. What I am going to do is I'm actually going to just click on my arrows here so I can go ahead and expand my screen so that you can see as much of Schoology as possible. So just by clicking on those two arrows, they're going in a diagonal direction. I'm going to just click on those and it's going to expand so I get the most of my entire use of my screen. So I can always click it back to get my stuff back. This will allow me to see the most of my screen here. So welcome to Schoology. Again, at the top, I'll have the title of my course, which will match the same course that I'm in from Teams. I'll have a picture here that my teacher has put. And the materials tab is where I will be able to see all of the materials that my teacher has posted. Again, these could be things like pages, discussions, assignments, all here in this materials tab. And then over here on the right-handed side, it says upcoming, and I'll be able to see the different assignments that have been posted to me in kind of a order in which they need to be done. So this one is due on September 10th, where this one's not due until October 6th. So I can now come into my Schoology tab and always come look at my upcoming to see, do I have an upcoming quiz or assessment? Do I have an upcoming assignment? So this is a good place to look in the upcoming located on the right side. So that's the first thing I always check when I come into Schoology for my classes is what assignments are most pressing or coming up or due, what assessments are nearby. I start here. The second thing, again, is in materials. This is where I can see all of the different kinds of things that my teacher has posted for me. So I can click on the title of one of these and it'll open up so I can see it in a larger scale. And then when I click on the name of the team, the name of the course, it'll just bring me back here. So I can look at, I've got getting to know my classmates since it's the start of school. This is a great way to get to know my other peers. Or I have an assignment coming up. And I can kind of look at these different discussions or materials in order to respond or react to them. So in my materials tab, I'll be able to see the different types of materials that my teacher has posted. And again, if I click on the actual title of the material, it'll open. And then when I'm done, I can just click back on the name of the course and it'll bring me back to the materials space. So that's kind of how we navigate here through Schoology. So again, since Schoology is going to be where my assignments are going to be, let's talk about what kind of assignments we may find here. So again, I can just click over here on these different icons to access my assignments. I can also scroll through my materials space. There's also an all materials with a drop down. This will allow me to sort my materials based on what they are. So if I want to see where my assessments or quizzes are, my teacher posted a file that I need a link to go somewhere, I can always sort them here if I want. So that's just a neat little trick for parents and families, and for some students who need it, you can just click on the materials and sort them based on a specific material. So if I click on assignments, I got all 3 assignments here. This one's past due, so that's why it's not showing up on my up and coming. And then I've got these other 2 assignments here that I need to look at. So when it's time for me to work on an assignment, I can just click on the assignment and the assignment here will open. When I open the assignment, the name of the assignment will be listed up at the top. This is I Notice, I Wonder. And then I have 2 tabs. The first one is the assignment tab. And in the assignment tab, this is where I will see the description or the directions from my teacher. So I can see that there's a due date and time. I can see the directions. And then I can also see any attachments that my teacher has given here. So if my teacher, this one happens to be an article that they want me to open and read. It could be a PowerPoint to view. It could be the periodic table to support me with my assignment. So the attachment is going to be any supporting resources that my teacher wants me to use for this assignment. So under assignment, I'll see the description, the due date, and the directions for my assignment here. Once I've read the description and I know what I need to do, I've looked at my attachments, I can always click on the My Documents. The My Documents will show me a particular document that I can work on. And now I can either edit the document and work directly here on this document, or I can upload the document that I have here. And that truly just depends on the type of assignment given. And those assignments have been created and supplied for our teachers from our curriculum and instruction department. So some assignments I'm going to be able to work on directly here in Schoology, and some I'm going to just upload my own material. So once I get here, I can click on Edit and edit the assignment. When I'm done with the assignment, I can click on Submit Assignment, and it'll say, are you sure you want to submit the assignment? So if I still need to work on it, I can go ahead and click Never mind, not yet. If I am ready to submit it, I can click Yes, Submit, and it'll submit to my teacher. So anytime you submit an assignment, it is always going to say, are you sure you're ready? Yes or no. So I'll have the ability to do that. Now, if a student submits an assignment, they will be able to unsubmit the assignment if they did it by accident, or if they needed to add something to it, they can. Unless it's past the due date, then those assignments can be locked and they don't have the ability to do that. They can then reach out to their student's teacher. So again, the assignment space will be the directions, due date, and supporting documents. When I click on the My Document, I can either click Edit and edit the document right here, or I'll be able to upload my work to my teacher. Once I'm done, I can click on Submit Assignment, and then either yes, I've submitted and I'm good to go, or not yet. Again, anytime I want to get back, I'm going to just click on the name of that course and it'll bring me right back here. So that's how some assignments will look. You'll open it, and then under the My Document, you can either write directly on the page, or you'll be able to upload a document of your choice. Where some may look a little different like this. I'm going to click on Rocks and Minerals, and this one will look a little bit different. This has the title, again, just like the other one, the title of my assignment. It has the due date. It then has the directions listed directly here for me. And so this assignment wants me to view the PowerPoint, which is one of the resources my teacher posted, and then directly underneath, I can write in my responses. So this time I can just type directly here into the space. So now I can just, right here in comments, type in my response to my teacher and click Post. So I can just put a number 1 and type in my response and type in all of them and click in Post. And click Post. And then there's my answers to my assignment directly here. Again, when I'm done, I can just click on the name of my course to come back. Now, students will be able to click on the Grades tab, which is located over on the left-handed side. They'll be able to see all of their assignments in the way that they're categorized. So whether it's projects, and then under projects, it'll be class assignments. If it'll be homework, quizzes, those will be sorted here by the teacher. And then you can see these are the assignments that I have done. And where these lines are mean that they haven't been graded or there hasn't been feedback. So I can tell that none of these have been graded yet by the teacher. When my teacher does come in and grade them, a grade will sit directly here. And then if I click on that assignment, I'll be able to see any comments or feedback that my teacher has provided me. So at any time, if a student says, you know, I really worked hard on this, I'm not sure how I did or didn't do, they can always click on the Grades tab. find the assignment and open it, and then they'll be able to see, one, if there's a grade here, or if they click and open that assignment, they'll be able to see what feedback or comments have been left by their teacher. So this is how students can look for teacher feedback and be able to see any grades or assignments. And then I can always click on materials to bring me back here to this space. We're going to look at updates next in Schoology, and then I'll answer some of your Schoology questions here that I see are coming in. So directly underneath materials is updates. Updates is where I can post to my teacher or my teacher can post to me. So if I click in this box, I can go ahead and type a response to my teacher. And I may post in updates if it's related to an assignment. Since all assignments are going to be coming here through Schoology, I may use updates here to ask a question about a specific assignment. So I'll be able to type in here, and then I can even record a video response here. So this is really nice, especially for our younger students. I'll be able to click on that little microphone button and record my own video response. So students can record their own responses or type in a message and click post. And again, I really like updates here for asking questions about assignments. So I'm going to go back here to materials, and this is, again, Schoology. So one of the questions that I see here is, what if the Schoology tab does not appear at the top of the team? Students can also access Schoology through Clever. Students have been instructed to set up their team with the Schoology tab at the top of their team for easy access for students. And another Schoology question here I see. How do students get back to their team? Students can, again, I have expanded my window here. So if I unexpand my arrow, I now get my channels and all of my tabs back. So I can now just click on posts and go back into my posts here to meet with my teacher, and then go back here into Schoology. But students can also, if they happen to be in this expanded version, they can also just click on one of their tabs in the Me space, and it'll help them navigate back out of their team. So they have a couple of options just depending on, you know, where your student feels most comfortable with going from one place to another. So one of the other questions I see is, will Schoology read the assignments to students? I have a younger student. So great question. Schoology does not have the ability to read assignments out loud to students. But just like I was able to, in updates, record my response to my teacher, teachers can also record their own voices. So kindergarten teachers, first grade teachers, they'll be able to record the directions to students to help them kind of understand the different assignments that are being asked of them. So that's a really great feature here in Schoology. In Teams, students will have the ability to use something called Immersive Reader. So if I come here to this announcement by my teacher, I can hover over till I get those reaction buttons. And when I select on the 3 dots, I will be able to use Immersive Reader. An immersive reader is a feature in Office 365 tools. So when I click on immersive reader, it'll give me the directions. So if I select the play button, it'll read the directions out loud to me. So in Teams, students will have the ability to use immersive reader. Again, to get there, I just hover over a particular post and click on my three dots and click that little book with a speaker to click on immersive reader. And again, that's in Teams. Immersive reader will allow me to go ahead and listen to the directions or the post from my teacher here. And I can always change the speed, or I can come up here and change the speed or make the text bigger or smaller. I can even come in here and translate the document completely. So I have the ability now to listen to it from one language as well as English as well. And then when I'm done, I can just click on this back arrow in the top left corner. And that's here in Teams. So again, in Teams, I just click on those three dots and click on immersive reader. So in Teams, that's how I can listen to the different posts and the different directions here that my teacher may have posted to me if I need help reading it or translating. And then in Schoology, again, teachers are able to record video responses to each one of their materials, but then students can also video response back. So those are two really great features here in Teams and in Schoology. Okay, again, Teams, Schoology, and Clever do all have mobile applications. If you as a parent decide to download any one of those, they're free. You can definitely download them. And it'll be your student's same username and password to access it if needed. I'm looking here at the questions, and I'm going to just read off a couple of questions here that I see. One of the questions is, will this be available for students who are face-to-face? Great question. Students will have access to both Teams and Schoology, whether they're virtual or face-to-face, but again, your student's teacher will be able to provide more information on how they would use those platforms face-to-face, if they're choosing to or not. So your student's teacher will be able to give you support in that. And then another question I see is, I'm looking at my students' classes and I do not see the Schoology tab. Again, students have access to Schoology through Clever. All teachers have been instructed to set up their team with that Schoology tab up here at the top, so that it is easy for students to access. So all teachers have been instructed to add their Schoology tab at the top of Teams so that it's easier for students to access everything here that they need at their fingertips all in one space. But they can also access Schoology through Clever. And teachers are aware that this is going to be a learning curve for a lot of our students. This is going to be very different to a lot of their schooling. So you can definitely expect in the first couple of, week 1 and 2 or so to definitely be seeing from your student's teacher expectations and where they're going to be putting different things. For example, I have a teacher specifically who is going to add a daily post to each student, where I have another teacher who's going to kind of give a week a post for their week at a glance. So each teacher has the ability really to customize their spaces, and your student's teacher will not only be able to explain that, but model these different platforms for our students during the first couple weeks of school, because we know it is new for everybody. So they'll definitely be able to have some time to get used to these two platforms and have the ability to see exactly what their teacher is expecting of them. So let's talk about what happens with our technology if we're having trouble. So let's talk about a couple of things. First of all, if your student is having issues with their connected future devices, they can contact a human in IT by texting HELP in all caps 4CF to 562-372-6925. So if you're having issues with your connected future device, you can text HELP in all caps 4CF to 562-372-6925, or you can fill out the web form at help4cf in all caps.org. Their hours are going to be Monday through Friday from 12 to 7 p.m. And their hours may vary or change based on holidays or additional support. So always check the website there for that web form. So if you're having issues with your connected futures devices, this is definitely where you want to go to get support. Students having issues with logging into Clever, Teams, or Schoology. If you're having issues logging into Schoology, Clever, or Teams, again, it's going to be the same login information. So double check first, if your student says, I can't log into one of my applications, first double check their username, that they have their student number at thedps.org. And it'll be that whole address. And double check their student password, which is the combination of the student initials and birthday. So again, just double check to make sure your student typed it in. Sometimes students forget the period in between, or they forget the @ sign. So just double check that login information and that password. However, if you are still having problems, don't worry. You can email us at service.desk@detroitk12.org. So service.desk@detroitk12.org. Or you can email us at 313-576-0100. So again, you can email us at service.desk@detroitk12.org, or you can call us at 313-576-0100. And whether you call us or email us, please provide us with your student's full name, their grade, and what school they're at, as well as the problem that you're having. The more information you share with us, the quicker we will be able to give you resolution steps to walk you through or help you solve whatever problem that you're having. So that saves some of the back and forth and can really allow us to give you the best solution to whatever issues or problems that you're having with logging in. So you can email or call us. Again, give us your student's full name, grade, and school, and then what's going on, so that we can definitely make sure that we help you get logged in. All right, I see a couple of questions here in the chat, so I'm going to answer those, and then we'll go through the student login information. So one of the questions is, do you have directions on how to use Immersive Reader? Yes, we do. So I will show you how to use Immersive Reader again, and then as soon as we go through these last couple slides, we are going to provide you with a website on our DetroitK12.org website that has all of the information that we covered today. So if you need to ever refer back to using Immersive Reader or need to see the video, or if you have questions about, how do I access something, we're going to provide you with those resources here in the chat so that you can always go back and refer to the content that we've covered today. But I will show it again. When I'm here in Microsoft Teams, I'm going to just hover over a particular post. So I get those 3 dots. And then I want to click on the Immersive Reader button. So hover over a post, get the 3 dots, click Immersive Reader. And then I can just click play at the very bottom and it'll play for me. And then again, you have a couple of settings where you can change the font, slow it down, or translate it. But this is how you get here to Immersive Reader in this space. And then you can always hit the back button and get back here to your Teams. Okay, another question that I see here is, I don't see my students' classes here. So again, your students' schedule will already be posted in PowerSchool. If for whatever reason it's still not showing up, you can always check with your specific school. But by the start of school, all classes will be active for students to be able to access. So another question I see here is, how do you navigate between different Scholar accounts on the Schoology tab? So I'm going to go back to Schoology here. And I'm going to expand my screen just so that I can see it. So if you're in Schoology and you're trying to go from one account to the other, there's a couple of things that you can do. You can always click on the top right corner where, again, a profile picture is here with the student name. If you click on this, you can log out and log back in for your students. This is how you can go from one student account to another. However, when your student is logged into Teams, they'll be able to, if they're in their Teams account, they'll be able to see all of their team stuff. And then if a student switches Teams accounts, that'll switch over your student Schoology. So Schoology doesn't allow me to have more than one profile here connected, but Teams does. So in Teams, I can add an additional account. So if I wanted to bounce from one team to another student's account, I can. But Schoology does not allow you to bounce from one user to another. So you would do that using Teams, or your student can just log out and log back in. So they can log out and log back in, or here in Teams, you can always add an additional account so that you can go from one to another. If students are also using their own devices, they also won't need to switch from one account to the other too. So you have a couple of different options. And just as a reminder, if you're having any issues with those connected future devices, you can text HELP in all caps 4CF to 562-372-6925, or you can fill out the web form at help all caps 4cf.org and fill that out. Please double check your students' login information, whether they're logging into Clever, Teams, or Schoology, using their full email address, which is their student number at the dps.org, and their student password, which is a combination of student initials, birthday, and gender code. If you've checked the username and password and are still having any issues, you can definitely email us at service.desk@detroitk12.org, or you can call us at 313-576-0100. And then please provide us with your student's full name, their school, their grade, and tell us what the problem is so that we can get you the answer to whatever problems that you're having as quickly as possible. Again, student login information, no matter if you're in Clever, Teams, or Schoology, is going to be that student number. Again, you can either reach out to us to get the student number, or you can reach out to your specific school. It's going to be the student number at thedps.org. And then the student password is going to be a combination of the student name, birthday, and gender code. It's going to be a capital first initial of the first name, lowercase first initial of the last name, 2-digit birth month, 2-digit birth year, and then the gender code is going to be 01 for male and 02 for female. And we want to thank you guys so much for spending your Saturday morning here with us, learning all about our online platforms for students this fall. Again, what's going to happen here in this chat is we are going to post the link to the space on the district website that'll help reinforce everything that we've talked about today, where you can find additional answers to questions that you still may have, as well as the information that we covered today so that you can always refer back if you need to at any time. If you end up having additional questions or concerns, you can email us at it.training@detroitk12.org. We want to thank you guys so much for being here with us again on a Saturday, and it takes a village, so we really appreciate all the help and support you're providing your students.
And thank you, Megan. Thank you guys on the Instructional Solutions team. We would not be able to do this without you guys. Thank you to our parents for joining us. I hope you all have a pleasant weekend and enjoy your holiday. And you all be safe. Bye-bye.